Marina Lysaro had always dreamed of swimming with giants. From the time she was a little girl, the ocean called to her, not just for its beauty, but for the powerful creatures that ruled its depths. Orcas, the ocean's apex predators, became her life's mission. She trained for years, studying their behavior, building trust, and forming bonds that few others dared to try. By the age of 33, Marina wasn't just any trainer. She was one of the best in the world. At Ocean World Orlando, Marina had spent a decade working with the park's star orca, Nyla. A stunning 19-foot, 8,000-pound force of nature, Nyla had been captured from Iceland and brought to the US years earlier. To most, she was a performer. To Marina, she was family. Their connection was undeniable. One colleague put it simply, what Marina had with Nyla, it was rare, like they shared the same soul underwater. They moved as one in the tank, graceful, fearless, in sync. Audiences cheered as the two danced through the water in seamless stunts. Marina didn't just train Nyla, she understood her. She spent hours beyond the shows, talking, watching, listening. But even the strongest bonds can crack. Behind the applause and perfect performances, there were warning signs, subtle ones, easy to ignore. Nyla had a history of small outbursts, snapping at the water, sudden tail slaps, moments of tension. Trainers chalked it up to stress, the cost of captivity, or just orca behavior. But wild instincts don't vanish in a tank. And one warm June afternoon, everything broke. What happened that day would change Ocean World forever. A show that started like every other ended in chaos, fear, and tragedy. A trainer's trust was shattered. A life was lost. This is the story of Marina Lysaro, a woman who gave everything to the sea, and the terrifying moment when the sea gave nothing back. Nyla wasn't born in a tank. She came from the cold, deep waters off the coast of Iceland, wild, free, and untamed. But that freedom ended in 1992 when she was captured and brought to Ocean World Orlando. From the moment she entered captivity, she became both a marvel and a mystery. Towering at 19 feet and weighing 8,000 pounds, Nyla was a force of nature. Her power was undeniable, her presence unforgettable. In the eyes of the audience, she was perfect, gliding through the water with elegance, performing tricks with exact timing, leaving crowds gasping in wonder. But for the trainers who worked closely with her, there was something else. Something off. Underneath Nyla's beauty was a tension no one wanted to talk about. There were signs, small at first, refusing hand signals, popping her jaw, a known sign of frustration, sudden, sharp movements near the edge of aggression, a tail slap here, a lunge there. Trainers noticed, some whispered. Most shrugged it off. She's just being an orca, they'd say. But not everyone agreed. A former trainer once admitted. There were red flags, we all saw them, but no one wanted to be the one to say Nyla was dangerous. Over the years, Nyla's warning signs were brushed aside. Management blamed stress, the environment, or simply called it wild animal behavior. But beneath the surface, Nyla was changing. The pressure to perform, the isolation of captivity, the loss of her natural world, it was building up inside her, and no one wanted to believe that the star of the show could snap, except maybe Marina. She knew Nyla better than anyone. She'd seen the patterns, read the body language, felt the shifts in energy. Still, her bond with Nyla made her believe it could never turn dangerous. That trust would prove fatal. It was a humid summer afternoon in Orlando, the kind of day where the sun feels heavy and the scent of salt water clings to everything. Families streamed into Ocean World in flip-flops and sunscreened, their kids tugging at their arms, eager for one show above all others, Dances with Giants. At exactly 2:30 p.m., the gates opened. The stadium filled quickly, voices echoing across the arena. Beneath the bright sky, the surface of the pool shimmered like glass. Behind the scenes, Marina Lysaro stood calm and focused. This was her stage, her routine, and most importantly, her Orca. The highlight of today's show was a breathtaking stunt. Nyla would rise from the water, lifting Marina high into the air on her rostrum. It was a move they'd rehearsed dozens of times, always perfect, always in sync. The audience loved it. It was trust, power, and beauty rolled into one unforgettable moment. But something felt different. Marina didn't say it out loud. Maybe she didn't fully recognize it. A small hesitation in Nyla's swim, a flick of her tail, a look in her eye. Something was off. But the show had already begun. The music was playing, the crowd was cheering, and Marina dove in. From the moment the show began, something felt off. There was a strange tension in the air, one that even the cheering crowd couldn't cover. Marina took her place at the edge of the pool, scanning the water. She was waiting for Nyla's cue, the moment the Orca would swim up, start the routine, and dazzle the audience like always. But Nyla didn't come. She hovered just below the surface, gliding slowly, almost reluctantly. Her massive black and white body moved with hesitation, not the sharp precision Marina had come to expect. Marina raised her arm and gave the familiar signal. Usually that was all it took, but Nyla hesitated again. "She's just being stubborn," Marina whispered to herself. "She'll snap out of it, she always does." But this time, she didn't. At exactly 2:47 p.m., the trick was about to begin. Marina stood poised at the edge of the tank. The crowd leaned forward, their eyes locked on the water. She raised her arm again, the signal for Nyla to approach and lift her high into the air. It was their signature move, something they had practiced hundreds of times. But Nyla didn't follow the script. At first, it was just a small change, a slight curve in her swim path, a moment's delay, but Marina felt it, deep in her gut. She knew Nyla too well to ignore it. Still, she stayed calm, kept smiling, and got ready anyway. The show had to go on. Then it happened. Nyla suddenly rose from the water and nudged Marina off balance, just a light push. It looked playful to the crowd, a harmless moment. Marina laughed, splashed the water, trying to keep things smooth. But inside, her instincts screamed. That wasn't normal. That wasn't part of the routine. And Nyla wasn't finished. The second lunge was fast and brutal. In one terrifying moment, Nyla's jaws closed around Marina's arm. A sudden crushing grip. The crowd gasped, unsure if it was part of the act. But Marina knew. This wasn't a stunt. This was real. She froze for half a second. Shock, confusion, pain. She tried to pull away, tried to stay calm, but Nyla didn't let go. The water exploded into chaos. Splashes, screams, thrashing movement as Marina fought with everything she had. Her muscles strained, her lungs burned, but Nyla's grip only tightened. To the audience, it still looked like a dramatic part of the show. They had no idea they were watching a nightmare unfold in real time. Underwater, Marina's world collapsed. The Orca she had trusted for years, the one she called a partner, a friend, had turned on her. That deep bond she believed could never break shattered in seconds. Nyla dragged her down, fast and hard. Marina's body whipped through the water like a rag doll. Her left arm, trapped in Nyla's jaws, throbbed with unimaginable pain. The water around them turned murky, wild. There was no control, no routine, just instinct and fear. Above the surface, the audience sat stunned. No music, no laughter, just silence, until the screaming started. And in that moment, everything changed. The trainer became the prey, and the star of the show became the storm no one saw coming. Marina's body was being thrashed like a rag doll. The water churned violently around her, waves crashing with every movement of Nyla's massive frame. She struggled with everything she had, kicking, twisting, trying to break free, but it was no use. Nyla was too strong. Every time Marina fought back, the Orca pulled harder, dragging her deeper into the abyss. Her lungs screamed for air. The crushing pressure of the water, the steel trap grip of Nyla's jaws, it was like drowning in slow motion. The audience still thought it was part of the show. Then came the screams. One by one, the crowd began to realize something was horribly wrong. People stood up, pointing, shouting, children cried. Panic spread through the stands like wildfire. Safekeepers' staff members rushed to the pool's edge. Nets were thrown in, emergency alarms sounded. Trainers pounded the surface of the water with long poles, desperately trying to get Nyla's attention. But she didn't even flinch. Her focus stayed locked on Marina. For a brief, heartbreaking moment, Marina resurfaced. Her face broke through the water, pale and soaked, her eyes wide with panic. She gasped, barely catching a breath before Nyla yanked her under again. The struggle was far from over, but Marina was fading. The Orca dragged her back and forth beneath the surface, a powerful display of control and chaos. Each time Marina came up, she was weaker. At 2:48 p.m., her face broke through the water again. Her body shook. Her mouth gaped for air. Her eyes met Nyla's one last time. A desperate look. The silent question, why? Then she was gone again, pulled into the deep. The crowd had gone silent. Hundreds of people stood frozen, watching helplessly as the unimaginable unfolded in front of them. Trainers kept trying. Nets, whistles, emergency signals, but nothing worked. Nyla wouldn't let go. This wasn't just a failed performance, it was a tragedy playing out in real time. At 2:55 p.m., Marina's body was finally released. Her limp form floated to the surface. Staff pulled her onto the slick concrete poolside. Her clothes were soaked, her skin pale, water dripped from her hair as paramedics surrounded her. They worked frantically. CPR, oxygen, chest compressions. But it was too late. The spark that once lit up Marina Lysaro, the fearless woman who had devoted her life to these animals, was gone. The battle was over. The crowd looked on in disbelief, paralyzed by shock. This was supposed to be a moment of magic. Instead, they had witnessed a nightmare. When the coroner's report finally arrived, it confirmed the truth no one wanted to face. Marina didn't die from drowning alone. She died from the massive trauma inflicted by the jaws of the very creature she loved. Marina Lysaro died from a brutal combination of blunt force trauma and drowning. Nyla's powerful jaws had crushed her arm, and repeated submersions left her without oxygen. But as investigators began digging into what happened, it quickly became clear this wasn't just a tragic accident. It was the result of years of warnings ignored and truths hidden. OSHA and wildlife protection agencies launched immediate investigations. They wanted to know, what pushed Nyla to attack? Was there something more behind the orca's behavior? What they found was chilling. Nyla had a history and it had been kept quiet. Internal reports showed a pattern of warning signs, small but consistent red flags, unprovoked aggression, moments of disobedience, signs of stress. Trainers had noticed, even spoken about it privately, but nothing was done. The behavior was brushed off, covered up to protect the park's image. Behind the smiles and applause was a storm quietly building. After Marina's death, Ocean World was silent. The laughter, the excitement, the music, all stopped. The park mourned. Her colleagues, guests, and loved ones came together for a memorial. They shared stories of her kindness, her passion, and her deep love for the animals she worked with. But in the midst of the grief, a bigger question echoed through the silence. Should orcas ever have been kept in tanks in the first place? Marina loved the ocean. She believed in the bond she shared with Nyla. But that belief cost her life. Her death sparked something much larger. Across the country and the world, people began demanding answers. Why are these powerful, intelligent animals still being held captive? How many more lives, human and animal, must be lost before we change? Marina's dream was to show the world the beauty of Orcas. But the place that once felt like her sanctuary had become a prison for them both. Wild hearts were never meant to live behind glass. Orcas like Nyla were born for the open sea, not the confines of a concrete tank. And now, with Marina gone, Nyla was left alone in that tank, silent, aimless, a ghost of the majestic creature she once was. The world moved on, but for those who watched that day, for those who truly understood, the image of Nyla circling endlessly in her tank would never be forgotten. This story is more than the death of one woman. It's about a system that keeps wild animals in captivity for entertainment. It's about the cost of silence, and it's about the responsibility we all share to speak up. If Marina's story moved you, don't let it end here. Talk about it, share it, question the institutions that profit from the suffering of these animals, support organizations working to free them, use your voice for those who can't speak. Change starts with awareness, and awareness leads to action. Thank you for watching. Marina's legacy is not just in her love for the ocean, but in what we choose to do next. Let her story be the spark that pushes us toward a future where animals like Nyla are free to live as nature intended, wild, unbroken, and free.